All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're charting a course into some seriously uncharted waters. Because once we strip away all those Hollywood myths, we uncover a true 3,000-year global history of piracy. Get ready, because the real story turns out to be so much darker, way more complex, and honestly, infinitely more fascinating than anything you've ever seen in the movies. So, when you think of a pirate, what actually pops into your head? I bet I know exactly what you're seeing. A rugged guy in a tricorn hat, maybe rocking a wooden peg leg, a brightly colored parrot on his shoulder, shouting "Arr!" while making some poor sailor walk a wooden plank. Pop culture has sold us this highly romanticized, chaotic rebel for over a century now, but we're going to take that entire image and just throw it completely overboard. It's time to pivot sharply away from the costumes and dive into a gritty, economically driven, historical reality.
Let's kick things off with Chapter 1, Shattering the Pirate Myth, from ancient disruptors to Eastern rebellions. The foundational rule of human history seems to be this: wherever there's maritime trade, there are people waiting to steal it. Back in 1200 BCE, a mysterious confederation known as the Sea Peoples literally collapsed Bronze Age empires. They were essentially the world's first large-scale pirate coalition. Jump to 75 BCE, and a group of highly organized Cilician pirates made the massive mistake of kidnapping a 25-year-old Roman noble named Julius Caesar. And what did Caesar do? He laughed at them. He demanded they double his ransom, treated them like his subordinates, and cheerfully promised to crucify them all once he was free. Now, the pirates thought this was just a joke. It wasn't. Once he was freed, Caesar raised a private fleet, hunted them down, and did exactly what he promised. Moving on, by 800 CE, we have the Vikings terrorizing Europe. Fun fact here, Viking wasn't actually an ethnic label. To go Viking literally meant to go raiding overseas. And finally, jumping to 1600 CE, we see the Waku in China. These were massive fleets of merchant pirates who armed themselves as a direct, organized rebellion against crippling, isolationist government trade bans.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, State-Sponsored Sea Raiders, the Era of Geopolitical Loopholes.
As we move forward in time, powerful empires realized something pretty clever. They could actually weaponize pirates for their own gain. Now, there's a massive distinction you need to know between a typical pirate and a privateer. A pirate is just an independent outlaw robbing ships for personal gain. A privateer, on the other hand, does the exact same thing, but they hold a magical piece of paper called a letter of marque. This little document made it completely legal for them to loot enemy ships on behalf of a government, as long as the government got a cut of the profits. This brilliant loophole allowed historical figures like England's Sir Francis Drake or the Ottoman Empire's Barbary corsairs to act as incredibly cost-effective undercover naval weapons.
And let me tell you, these state-sponsored raiders became terrifyingly powerful. To put this into perspective, the Barbary corsairs ran such a massive maritime ransom enterprise out of North Africa that shortly after winning its independence, the early United States had to spend a staggering 20% of its entire national budget just paying them tribute and ransom money.
Let's sail into Chapter 3, the Golden Age of Piracy, the Outlaws of the Caribbean.
Eventually, geopolitical needs shifted, and all those privateers we just talked about suddenly found themselves out of a job. This triggered an explosive 30-year window where desperate, out-of-work mariners raised the black flag and built a completely lawless republic in the Bahamas. But why did they do it? Well, the wealthiest pirate in history, Samuel Black Sam Bellamy, summed it up perfectly. He said, "They rob the poor under the cover of law, and we plunder the rich under the protection of our own courage." You see, many of these pirates didn't view themselves as mere thieves. They saw themselves as social revolutionaries, escaping the brutal, deadly conditions forced upon them by tyrannical merchant captains and wealthy elites. It was very much a Robin Hood philosophy of the sea.
And hey, it wasn't just men seeking out this absolute freedom. The Golden Age produced some fierce female pirates too, like Mary Read and Anne Bonny. In a world where women had almost zero legal rights, they fought right alongside the men and were actually known to be far more aggressive. Just listen to Anne Bonny's incredibly cold farewell to her pirate captain, Calico Jack, right before he was executed. She looked at him and said, "If you had fought like a man, you need not have been hanged like a dog." Talk about legendary toughness.
Moving on to Chapter 4, History's Greatest Pirate Empire, the Unstoppable Red Flag Fleet.
By 1726, the Caribbean pirates were mostly wiped out. But if you want to find history's actual greatest pirate empire, we have to pivot away from the West entirely and head over to 19th century China. If I asked you to name the most successful pirate ever, you'd probably guess Blackbeard, right? Well, he only had about 4 ships. The legendary Sir Henry Morgan, he peaked at around 36. The undisputed greatest pirate in human history was actually a woman named Ching Shih. She commanded the Red Flag Fleet, a mind-blowing armada of over 400 warships and 40,000 pirate warriors. Her fleet was literally larger than many national navies of the time.
So, how on earth do you control 40,000 outlaws? Through brutal, ironclad discipline. Her laws were terrifyingly strict. Give an unauthorized order, beheaded. Steal from the common treasury, beheaded. Mistreat a female captive, executed. This immense discipline made her fleet so unstoppable that she defeated massive combined naval coalitions of Chinese, British, and Portuguese forces. Ultimately, she became such a threat that she forced the Chinese government to grant her entire fleet a full pardon. She walked away incredibly wealthy, completely free, and retired to run a gambling house. She basically won. Next up is Chapter 5, The Secret Pirate Democracy, Dismantling Hollywood Illusions.
Let's dive below deck for a second and dismantle some lingering illusions about how pirates actually lived. While the rest of the 18th century world was being ruled by absolute monarchs and tyrants, pirate ships were actually operating as radical early democracies. The captain was democratically elected, and his power was absolutely not absolute. To protect their individual rights, they created a strict separation of powers. They elected a quartermaster, a representative of the crew who distributed the loot, settled disputes, and served as a vital, direct check on the captain's power.
Even more surprising was the pirate code's built-in social security system. No, really. If you lost your right arm in battle, the ship's treasury paid you 600 pieces of aid. If you lost an eye, you got 100 pieces of aid. Pirates literally pioneered a highly structured workers' compensation and disability insurance system centuries before the modern civilian world even considered it. And speaking of myths versus reality, let's rapidly clear up a few of those Hollywood cliches right now. Walking the plank? Total myth invented by novelists. If pirates wanted you gone, you were shot, or simply marooned on a desert island. Eye patches? Fact. But it was mostly a brilliant tactical tool. They kept one eye permanently adjusted to the dark, so when they ran below deck into pitch-black cargo holds to fight, they could just flip the patch and instantly see. What about buried treasure? Another massive myth. Pirate loot was mostly perishable goods like sugar or tobacco, and when they did get their hands on gold, their life expectancy was so incredibly short that they just spent it immediately on partying.
Finally, we reach Chapter 6, The Modern Pirate Legacy, The Evolution of the Black Flag. Because the truth is, piracy didn't just vanish in the 21st century, it evolved. A crucial takeaway for us here is that piracy is ultimately a symptom of broken economies, lawless seas, and sheer desperation. When we look at modern piracy in places like Somalia, the age-old drivers are exactly the same as they were centuries ago. Whether ancient raiders were using wooden longships or modern militias are using fiberglass skiffs and GPS, piracy thrives wherever local economic survival is threatened by government collapse, overreach, or extreme poverty.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, leaving us with a truly complex legacy and a pretty difficult question. Are pirates merely violent criminals, or are they a symbol of the untamed human spirit? Now, yes, they were absolutely brutal outlaws who caused immense suffering, and we shouldn't romanticize that fact. But they were also pioneers who rejected the oppressive societies they were born into, choosing a highly dangerous life of absolute freedom over a long life of quiet desperation. Maybe that eternal clash between oppressive rules and absolute freedom is exactly why their black flags still captivate our imaginations so strongly today.
Please like and subscribe.